Hey, Gabriel Blake.
Hey, Gaybros, Jose.
Where are we today?
I am in San Francisco, Tenderloin to be specific.
And
TL.
the TL. I love how in San Francisco you can just make like these short names of every area for making it look cool. Soma, for example, is like the definition of that. That's out of market, But Firi, the what?
Oh, East Cut.
Okay, sure. But the TL is one that it just cracks me out. It is that are we trying to make it cool, or are we trying to make like the name as short as possible so people can run away before like completing a whole war?
So obnoxious. I hate feet. I hate it when people.
Fidi, yeah, I know. The one is like personally, I feel personally attacked by that one too. But yeah, no, I'm actually in Chicago, in Lakeview East. It doesn't have like a cool name. It's not like Lies or something like that. It's just Lakeview
You need
East.
to start that trademark.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, but I don't think that I'm going to have like too much longer on this area. So I'm not going to do any kind of marketing for an area that I'm not going to be living in a couple of months in. So.
Well, I mean, if colonization has taught us anything, you can profit off a geographical location without actually having to like spend time there.
Okay, that's fair. That's a fair point. I will keep it in mind. But in any case, before we talk about like more about like world domination or city domination, what did we watch this time?
This was your pick, Jose. You chose the film, and we watched the cult classic. I don't know the year. 1975 cult classic that the New York Times didn't bother to review, the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Well, to be fair, did they review Eraserhead?
They did. I sent it to you. Do you remember? Because it was funny. There was a review of Eraserhead that said this is the least talented director ever, next to an advertisement of the Elephant Man calling him a remarkable new talent, and I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, no, but I thought that it was like just it was actually like way after the opening.
Yeah,
That it was almost like just social pressure to the New York Times about like, hey, you have to review this movie that is still playing, in this theater in LA.
And in fairness to the New York Times, there were scores of articles after, like they finally had to admit that they needed to write it,
bro.
Just didn't review it in 75.
Do you think about like Rocky Horror Picture Show?
Yeah.
Ah, gotcha. Okay. I thought that, so it was like just correcting about like, we never talk about this. This was like it was like an important movie for talking about, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's interesting. I wonder if they will ever do that with the guest, like just retracting the list.
They just delete it from their archives. Never mind.
This never happened. Like the anatomy of an scene is that video disappearing.
Like I'm forgetting that they named Hitler Man of the Year.
Oh my god. Oh god, yeah. They're like decisions that you can regret when things are put in perspective. But yeah, this was my pick. I'm not completely sure why I chose this after the previous movie that we watched, that it was 9 days, I think. But
Punish me.
I mean, I don't think that I wanted to punish you, but this has been a movie that I had forever in the list. And I think that 9 days left are like so, that is, I wanted to go with something that is definitely not going to be like leaving you. I'm not going to say if I expected you to like it or not. I can say that I watched it with my boyfriend, and one of the things that I said like towards the end, it was like, I really want to hear what Blake is thinking about this movie when he's watching it.
So you had seen it a few times before?
Yeah. So for giving a bit more of context, I watched it like many years ago, like probably 20 years ago, like the first time, and then I had to do like something. I mean, they had to do like some kind of a small surgery in the hospital, and they left me in one of these rooms waiting for my surgery that it was going to be like the next morning, and they forgot about me. So I ended up spending like 4 or 5 days, and I had like one of these all MP3 players when they started having like a screen. So I had only like 1 or 2 movies, and this was one of them. So I watched the crap out of this movie because I didn't have anything else to do. I didn't carry like books or anything. It was like, it's like it's just for a night, and we just carried this MP3 player.
Okay. So I had never seen this film. Obviously, like I had seen references to it probably on SNL. Like, yeah, I could recognize it, like Dr. Frankenfurt. he's a pretty iconic piece of pop culture. Like, you don't have to have seen the movie to know who that is. But yeah, I had not seen it until yesterday.
So, as I picked this movie, and I already said what kind of place it has in my heart, you have to summarize it.
Okay, you're gonna have to help me with some names, but I have the IMDb page up, so maybe not. So the film opens at a wedding, and it's black and white. No, it's color. Okay. For some reason, I must have seen a black and white still of them in the church, but I did watch the movie, and it was in color. So we meet Janet and Brad, right? Brad is the name of the character. Okay. Janet and Brad are go ahead.
No, I was going to say that Janet, we have to highlight this, is played by Susan Sarandon.
Yes.
Like a really young Susan Sarandon.
And I didn't read anything recently, but didn't she really not want to take this?
Well, the thing is, like, this was like one of the fun facts that I knew, is that for many, many years, I thought that she actually felt embarrassed about the role that she did here, because it was like pretty early in her career, and she didn't know that she was going to be being a star of more serious roles. Let's just go with that. So what I heard is that for a while she tried to actually just get all the copies of the movie destroyed, because she was like really a fan of this. Then years later, I read an interview with her where she says like, no, it's the opposite. It's like, I really like this movie. I mean, I know that it's like campy, I know that it's silly, but it's a movie that I really like, and I had like a blast working on it. It's like, I don't participate in many of these events, like midnight showings, but that doesn't mean that I don't like it or I feel ashamed of it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. You were the source of the rumor. Okay.
Sorry.
So Janet and
Brad.
Brad is played by Barry Bostwick. I don't know if you know who that is by name, but he's a very funny actor today. I like him a lot, but I didn't recognize him. I'm just seeing this now on the IMDb page. So they're at a wedding of Brad's friends, and after the wedding ends, Brad kind of leads Janet into a graveyard, and they sing a song, "Damn It, Janet," where basically he proposes to her. They become engaged, and it's a very nice, happy moment. And I read that this is supposed to be of the Ike era, like President Eisenhower.
Oh, good set. Okay.
So it's kind of making fun of these, not making fun of, like a satire of this very clean-cut culture and everybody's eyes and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I mean, it feels a bit more like just like 50s, 60s.
Yeah, exactly.
That it could be like in a diner, like sitting in front of a fountain drink or something like that.
Yes, and I read that this was an homage to movies that were made between the 30s and 60s, so this all makes sense. So they're super happy. They're engaged, and then they're driving home, I think.
No, they're driving for just getting the stamp of approval of a teacher, a science teacher whose son is where they met. When they were in high school. So they're like high school lovers.
Okay. So they're driving, it's night, there's a terrible storm, and they get a flat tire and their spare is out. So they're like, oh, what do we do? And then Brad's like, oh, didn't we see a castle a while back? Let's go see if they have a phone. So they go to the castle, they knock on the door. An Igor-like person named Riff Raff opens the door, and he's very weird and just very weird. He comes in, you immediately meet a maid that I think is Riff Raff's sister named Magenta. I'm not certain on that, but
it is, but we don't know it at that point. We only know that they are the servants.
So they're like, hey, can we use your phone? And it sounds like there's a party, and they say, hey, is there a party? And they're like, oh, this is the annual convention of Transylvania. So they go in, and there's just this very weird transvestite / transsexual. I don't think those two terms were as flushed out as well as they are today.
Yeah.
But we meet Dr. Frankenfurter, played by Tim Curry, who is in complete I don't know if it's drag, because it's never clear if he's just transgender or transsexual. They use both.
It's gender fluid.
Gender fluid, yes.
Yeah.
I think Robert Ebert called it omnisexual. That's
Sure.
So they sing, and Dr. Frankenfurt in song introduces himself as trans.
It's a sweet transvestite from transsexual Transylvania. Aha.
Yes, Transylvania is a planet. We find out he's an alien. I don't remember exactly when we find it out. Anyway, it turns out this is an annual convention, or I think I might have assumed it was annual. And Dr. Frankenfurt is announcing that he's discovered the secret to life, and he brings to life this muscle boy. I mean, he has muscles, but he's more of a twink. He's like completely hairless, zero body fat.
He's a twunk. It's a twunk.
So he brings this guy to life, and he sings about how he can make him a man in 7 days and gives him like weights to lift, and clearly they're gonna have sex at some point. And it seems like everybody at the party wants to and or will have sex with Rocky. Rocky Horror. That's right. So then Meatloaf busts out of a frozen death, riding a motorcycle, singing. I can't remember what the song he sings, but it turns out that Dr. Frankenfurt used half of Meatloaf's brain to create Rocky. But Dr. Frankenfurt is so pissed off that he kills Meatloaf, who's not playing himself. It's a character.
Eddie, I think that is the name of the character.
Eddie. And
because Columbia is in love with him.
Yes, there's
some other characters.
And so then he kind of begs forgiveness by Rocky by claiming, oh, that was a mercy killing. He wanted it.
Yeah.
So now things start to get a little fuzzy. A lot of things happen at this point.
I think that they go to bed, and that's like an important part because I think there is a bit more of a sexual awakening point.
So
for
they
the characters.
separate Janet and Brad, and we see them in beds separately, and we see Dr. Frankenfurt seduce them one by one, at first pretending to be Beyonce. And then they're like, oh no, it's you, Dr. Frankenfurt. And at first both of them protest, but then ultimately they both have
they roll with it. Yeah. So let's remember, this is a movie from 1975, and it's implied in a very clear way that Brad had sex with Dr. Frankenfurter.
We see Brad's spread his legs, and Dr. Frankenfurt is singing until he goes, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, just saying. And then we see him like just smoking a cigarette.
And Janet sees on a video the two in bed with him smoking a cigarette, and she gets so pissed off that she decides to have sex with Rocky.
Mm-hmm. That's me, touch me, creature of the night.
And then how does everyone end up in the room where she's having sex with Rocky? Oh wait, no. There's a part where Magenta and somebody else are kind of torturing Rocky, and then Janet finds Rocky
to
heal his wound, or to wrap his wounds, and that's when they end up having sex. And help me from here.
So at that point, actually, the teacher that they were going to be like visiting shows up in the house, and it looks like his nephew, I think.
Nephew.
Yeah, that is actually Meatloaf, the nephew. That we discovered like a bit later on. He actually talks about like he was like a very bad person. He never had his teddy bear. He was not good. And then he attracts like Dr. Frankenfurter attracts like the wheelchair that the teacher is in.
And it's at this point he turns them into
stone.
Stone statues.
Yeah.
And he dresses them up into like a cabaret, like a transvestite cabaret.
Yeah, it's only how he is dressed up with more makeup.
And then he unfreezes them, and they perform. And then, what happens?
And then Riff Raff and Magenta come in, and they actually just untap that is hey, we are all aliens, the three of us, that we come from the planet Transylvania, and we had a plan, and it's clear that Dr. Frankfurter is just going too over the top he's like out of control, so we need to go back. And then he thinks that he's going back to his planet, but he said, no, we're going back to our planet. You are not.
And Riff Raff has a laser gun that can shoot a laser of antimatter. And he said, hey, when I said we're going home, I wasn't clear. You're not going home.
Weird.
And he kills Dr. Frankenfurt. And then...
And he kills Rocky Horror too.
Well, but Rocky Horror is super upset, so he takes Dr. Frankenfurt with him.
Yeah, he does like a King Kong kind of thing over a tower.
Of a tower, which is part of the set for the cabaret, but then they shoot him with the ray gun and they both die.
That at the same time, it's the sign of RKO. But was this an RKO movie or not?
I don't think so. I think it was just a throwback.
Yeah, I mean there are like many
RKO
things.
was already out of business by then.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, already like in the 50s probably went out of business. But yeah, it's pretty clear that is scene, they have like a musical number in the swimming pool, not as sophisticated or as elaborated from the golden age of musicals, but it's like pretty clear the influence. Yeah. The same way of just climbing, Rocky Horror climbing with Dr. Frankenfurter to the tower. There's like, this is a King Kong reference over an RKO tower.
So then Riff Raff and Magenta talked to the teacher in the wheelchair and says, sorry about your nephew. And he's like, no, he wasn't. It was probably for the best, is what he says.
Yeah.
And it's like, you need to get out of the castle while you can, because we're basically beaming the castle back to the planet, but when it shows it, it's like the castle's a spaceship and goes up into the sky.
So this castle, fun fact, is actually in UK, and right now it's a hotel. It was Sarandon hotel.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And that's the end.
Yeah. Basically, that's it. Is that they are like just left out of the hotel, like just like floating, like just laying down like next to the hotel. And that's like how it ends. Yeah, there is no like really happy ending, but I want to ask you overall, did you like it?
The answer is no. Did I respect it? Yes. More than I thought I would. I really thought I was going to hate this. But first off, the gender bending or the gender fluidity and the sexuality, like celebrating homosexuality and heterosexuality, and I was blown away. They did this in the 70s. Not only that, but this became a very popular film. I mean, even back then, but I read on the Wikipedia page, to take this with a grain of salt, that since Rocky Horror Picture Show is still in limited release, this is the longest theatrical release in history, because it's still being shown in theaters today.
That may be true. Honestly, like in a regular kind of way.
Source, but Wikipedia is true, 65% of the time.
No, I think that is maybe true. As I just think about like the many places that they are still doing like midnight showings. San Francisco used to do it
until the Clay closed, which was what a year and a half ago. They were playing it every month. Yeah,
at the beginning of the pandemic. Here, the Music Box Theater, they do it like monthly. So it's still like something that it's done. And it has been like from 75 and almost from the beginning they have been doing this. So
I mean, they do dress up nights at the Castro for sure with this.
Yeah. So I mean, that may be true. I mean, it's true that it's interesting because I don't disagree with you. I don't think that this is a honest to God good movie, but I think that it's an important movie. I think that it's ahead of its time, and it's like one of those movies. I remember like discussing this like 10 years ago after he moved to the States, and I found someone that he actually went to the cinema to watch it on 75 when he was like a little kid. And I was telling him, he's like, this is a movie that I'm like just mind blown about, because it's like you cannot do that nowadays. It's like if you try to do like something like this, you're gonna end up with Sorbas.
And I was actually waiting to be upset, me being very woke, that they didn't handle some of these subjects well. There's nothing offensive, really. Like, they don't dehumanize transvestites or transgender people. They do make them seem weird, but not like in a bad way, like Ace.
Well, but no one makes fun of him for just looking weird.
It's not.
He's the coolest person there.
He's clearly having the most fun. smartest, and I was also like, I was interested, and again, I didn't expect this, in the way it started out as a straightforward story, and then it goes into kind of like almost like murder mystery style, and then it goes into like science fiction, and then it goes into what I consider surrealism, which started when he turned them into statues, which didn't seem part of the sci-fi. It seems like, okay, now we're talking in metaphors or whatever.
Yeah.
But then in his final song, Dr. Frankenfurt's final song, I'm Going Home,
yeah,
he has, I don't think it's a vision. Well, maybe it is a vision, but he's performing the song and he sees the theater fill up with all of these like very high class people. And it was like, I'm like, wow, like this is so...
Is Transylvania full of these people? Is that he's just imagining these people, or he's like just thinking about like the metaphorical aspect of just performing into a very nice venue?
I don't know, and I don't think it really mattered. Like what we were seeing, what Dr. Frankenfurt was experiencing, which was very like a high, and then ends up on a low when they all disappear and he sees the theater empty.
Yeah, and they kill him. Yep.
Yeah. So I was impressed. I'm impressed, and I can respect both the film, what it did, and also the impact it's had on pop culture for almost 50 years. Jesus.
Yeah, I mean the thing is like it's a potpourri of different influences. That's the reason why I was like highlighting like the musicals or like the science fiction aspects. And most of the science fiction stuff that they use is like super pulpy. It's like super like 50s and 60s, But I always felt like when I distill it down to the basic aspects that I want to take out of the movie, it's a bit more about like sexual liberation. Is that we have these characters that they are like super cookie cutter at the beginning of the movie, and then it's like they go through this experience where they actually open their mind about like having sex with other people, and no one actually just attacks Brad for having sex with another man.
It's never even an issue. Like there's no homophobia in it. Like it's just like, hey, these people were open to new experiences and now they're kind of open-minded, and who knows if he's gay. Just because he had sex with a man once, it doesn't even matter. They don't address it because it doesn't matter in this story.
Yeah, it reminded me, I know that you're going to want to punch me right now, but it reminded me like an unleashed wild version of Pleasantville.
No, I mean, it explores the same subjects, right? Like sexual liberation, being open to new ideas, adding color to your life. Maybe that's why it was in black and white and then it was in color.
Yeah, no, you may be right, yeah.
But yeah, no, and it's way bolder. And I love how much I could be projecting my own shit on this, but like I just felt like the filmmakers didn't give a shit. They were like, we're just gonna make this film we want to make, and they didn't have to take into account studios or like, I don't know, being woke or politically correct. They're just like, we're gonna do this crazy thing, and it ended up resonating with people not just in America, but like this is an international sensation.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's from the perspective that when I watched it like the first time, I was like, this is cool. This is like as a gay person, that at that point I don't know how old I was, but I felt like I don't see movies like this. I don't see movies that they try to be like imaginative, and sex is like a concept that we don't have to talk about. We don't have to just like demonize it or doing anything. Is like, no, because Janet, when she tastes the forbidden fruit, she goes wild. Hence, like they touch me. Yeah, well, but she really enjoyed it. Maybe she always had it there, and she was, hey, I shouldn't be doing this because it's not okay before the marriage.
Because she gets upset that she was waiting for marriage. To virginity, and she lost it to Rocky, or not to Rocky, to Dr. Frankenfurt.
Well, I don't know if it was like losing it or it was like just a kiss or something, or just some interaction.
Yeah, who knows? No, I mean, I am not someone that particularly likes camp, but this movie worked for me on a few levels, which surprised me. I really thought I'm gonna give this like a 2. I don't know what my score is. I haven't thought about it at all, but like, yeah, I liked this more than I thought I would.
I mean, I watched it like so many times, and this time I was trying to just make sense of some of the aspects. It was like, no, all the part about it is like, just move on. It's like just enjoy the song. How he's like just driving the motorcycle around. He's like just be here for the ride. Is that this is not about like just making sense of anything. This is just like seeing weird people having affairs.
I can't ever see Meatloaf without thinking of Edward Norton saying, "I'm Bob's saggy tits."
Is that from a Meatloaf song?
No, it's from Fight
From
Club.
Fight Club, yeah.
And at some point, he's like being hugged by Meatloaf, and Meatloaf has the
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Robert Bolson. Yeah.
Store. Like,
Yeah.
I am Bob's big tits or something.
Sweetie tits. I have forgotten that was Meatloaf.
Yeah.
God.
That's how. Well, I knew that really famous song, but I never got into his music. That was really my first introduction to Meatloaf was Fight Club.
His famous song is like, "I would do anything but love, but not that."
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Overall, I would be curious, like just going back in time and just going to a cinema in '75 and just see like the reaction of people.
Yes, and I would like to go to the Castro Theater some night and see what a screening of this is like, because you'll be able to tell the way who they impersonate, who they dress up as, the parts of the film that they like yell at. Like it would reveal what speaks to what people.
Yeah, I really wanted to go to the showing. They have like for Halloween, like for 4 or 5 nights, they have a showing of the Rocky Horror Picture Show at the Music Box Theater, and we wanted to go, but we waited until too late, and it was sold out already. And that theater is like the size of the Castro Theater.
Oh wow!
Yeah, like sold out every day.
What movie did we go watch there together?
Moonrise Kingdom.
At the Castro?
Long time ago.
Didn't we go see that Argentine visionary that was going to direct?
Oh yeah, the Magic Mountain.
Yeah,
from Jodorowsky. Yeah, we saw it there too. But I'm pretty sure that I watched Moonrise Kingdom. I would swear that I watched it once with you there. I watched it with my ex, but I think that you were there too.
Anyway, yeah, I wrestle with the idea of how important camp is, and I don't know that this is. I don't know.
Yeah, is that is important?
See, I'm struggling with this because the idea of like sexual liberation in this specific kind of sexually fluid way, not just gender fluid, but sexually fluid. Yes, that's important, but like, is camp important in that? What role does camp play in his?
Let me ask you: is camp hurting this movie in any way? I'm not a big fan of camp. Believe me, I'm not. We just discussed it like many times that for me, like Young Waters is a tiny bit too much. But I was okay with it. I was not laughing. But it's like a stupid stuff, like when he's. I mean, the thing is, like, the cast is like really good. It's like Tim Curry. The role that he does is amazing.
Fantastic. He's so good in this.
He brings like completely to life. Like when he's like the first song when he says that is like anticipation, that he's like anticipation. Like that pause. It's amazing. It's like he does like the camp in some kind of way that is like, hey, look, this is not for me, but I respect it because you put all your heart into something as stupid as this. Like everyone else, is that everyone is like super into it.
Yeah, camp does not hurt this at all. It's just maybe it's the snob in me that thinks that camp can't be. The word I was using was important, but maybe it's just like any other genre. It can do it well or it can do it shitty. Like my mind is going to Sam Raimi and the fucking Evil Dead series and Into Hell that he did was Drag Me to Hell, like that sort of camp. I'm just like, fuck you, dude. Oh shoot! I just opened a can of worms.
You don't like the Evil Dead trilogy?
No.
Oh my God, we have been friends like for what, like 10 years, and we never talk about this?
I don't think we've ever discussed Sam Raimi, ever.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
I mean, I love Spider-Man. I think it's...
No, honestly, I think that the second Spider-Man is like probably like the best like a superhero movie. But didn't he do like one that it was serious, that it was not camp whatsoever? What was the name of it? That it was like pretty good.
Drag Me to Hell?
No. Before that, A Simple Plan. Yeah, I remember like just watching that, like because I was discussing while I was in college about like, well, he does this kind of silly horror movies that maybe you like them, maybe you don't, and then someone told me, it's like, A Simple Plan is an amazing movie.
My brother-in-law told me that, and I had seen the movie on the shelves of Blockbuster for years when I was like 18, and I always thought that it was Tony Danza on the cover. And so I was like, I'm not fucking watching a Tony Danza film.
That's understandable.
And it was Billy Bob.
Yeah, it was Billy Bob and Bill Paxton. Yep. And it's honestly, I think that that's like a really good movie, and it's almost like a similar case to A Straight Story, you know, with David Lynch about like, can I do like something that people are going to be like appreciating just for face value? Yes, I can, and I'm fucking good at it, but I don't want to do it. And that's like the part that I respect about like Sam Raimi, is like he does like campy horror stuff, and he does it in a way that no one else does.
I can give you that. I bring him up just because of that question, like what does camp do for the art of cinema? I don't know the answer to it. Maybe I'm learning by exposure.
Let me just ask you, were you entertained by watching this movie?
Yeah, there were parts that dragged. Some of the, I'm not a big fan of musicals. We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
Some of the songs, I'm like, okay, this needs to be over now. And some of the lyrics were, the lyrics were obnoxiously campy. So I don't know if I'm just being biased against the genre. But yes, I was entertained. That's the answer.
Yeah, and I think that for me it was like a movie that I was like so many times. I know exactly what is going to be like happening with it, but I still have like a good time watching it. I try not to take it like too seriously. I just feel it's like, hey, when you start like thinking about it, first half of the movie doesn't make any sense, you know, and the other half is like super forward looking to a point that we are not even at when it comes to just like sexual liberation and gender fluidity. And it's like, who put this money here? Who put like Tim Curry, Susan Sarandon, and other actors that they didn't do like terribly bad, you know? Is like, who actually just like got this cast of decent people to actually do this crazy thing? They did a sequel because Riff Raff is the writer, one of the writers of the movie. Yeah, and they did a pseudo sequel that is basically Brad and Janet, they just drive off and they find a city where a weird thing is happening. I don't remember it. It's called Shock Treatment, but they didn't get like the actors that they play Brad and Janet to repeat. They only got like Riff Raff.
So the New York Times did bother to review Shock Treatment, and the title was just, the director of Rocky Horror Picture Show has a new movie.
Take it as you want.
Yeah.
But
watching this movie to take me outside of my comfort zone and to learn that I didn't dislike it like I thought I would.
Yeah, I mean, but it's like, the thing is, it's not only silly, it's that it does some stuff that is bold.
Yeah, that the gay sex scene, which admittedly it's not like graphic. You just see a silhouette behind like a curtain.
A silk screen, yeah.
But I can't think of another film like that from that time period that showed gay sex.
Yeah. And the thing is like, did we need, because the thing is like with gay cinema nowadays, even if we think about like God's Own Country, is that it gets explicit. We see a flaccid dick turning hard on the movie.
But that's definitely the exception, not the rule. I feel like with gay movies, most gay movies, like think about Brokeback Mountain, there's no nudity at all.
Okay.
Weekend, There's no nudity in that.
There was no nudity. There were no dicks whatsoever.
I think I remember dicks.
Okay, that's fair.
No, there might have been. And to be fair, both of those movies you mentioned are European, which have a different approach to nudity.
Okay.
Americans are British when it comes to male nudity specifically.
Okay, that's fair, and that's the reason why I find like this surprising for being 75, because it's not even. What year was like The Boys on the Choir? It was like 72 or 70. Well, it doesn't matter. That movie is like openly gay. Is that the thing is like as you put it like perfectly, there is that this movie is like about all sexual orientation, gender definition, and it makes it in a jokingly manner, but it doesn't make jokes about those concepts. It's fairly respectful from the perspective that all of this is valid. Let's move on.
It honestly, it reminded me, my husband and I talk about this, when there's a gay like television show, movie or whatever, it's so refreshing that when there's nothing in it about being bullied for being gay or relating to the AIDS crisis, just because those are central themes. But now that like a gay love story can just be a gay love story without, having to deal with shit from the past, it felt like that, but 50 years ago, like, oh, this is just, hey, some people choose to live their lives in a different way, and it's fine. And
we don't make a big deal out of that. We don't make a difference between like Janet going to have sex with Rocky or actually like just Brad having sex with Dr. Frankenfurter. We don't.
It ended up opening their minds, and they it's commendable.
Yeah, so that part is like, even by nowadays standards, as you say, is that when we actually see like something that is non-straight, they make a big deal out of it. Mm-hmm. In this case, they didn't. I mean, the movie, I still don't know if I had to summarize it into a single sentence about like what is this movie about. I'm not completely sure if I would say that it's about like sexual liberation.
Yeah, because it's not about the liberation. Yeah, I don't know. I guess this film defies categorization.
Maybe it does, maybe it's about like so many random things at the same time that it's like hard to just like pick one. But I don't think, regardless, as me as a non-straight person, I love that aspect of the movie. I wouldn't say that it's like the epicenter of it. I mean, it's like Tim Curry does an amazing job of a gender fluid, bisexual character, but it's not about that centrally, So I don't know. I mean, every single time that I see it, I always feel like just really surprised about like how important this feels. About like how similar. I think that it's like probably the second time that we have said this about like this movie couldn't have been done nowadays, with the other movie being Romeo plus Juliet. for very different reasons.
Still be made, just not by a studio.
This movie?
No, Romeo plus Juliet could still be made today. It would just pop up at Sundance. It wouldn't have like a major studio tossing like tens of millions of dollars.
Well, but that's what I mean. That's what I mean. It's like a bigger studio, like just putting like that amount of money into something so crazy of a project is like, that's amazing. I mean, it actually just made me respect like Baz Luhrmann like way more. In this case, is that I just feel like, no, this is crazy. It doesn't matter like the amount of money that you put, because if someone tries to make it as an independent film, it would be quirky, but that's as far as I would go. It wouldn't be campy.
Yep, I agree. No, this is we're lucky that it was made in 1975, because
it was the only time.
The wars the way they are today, like I feel like things are just getting more intense.
Yeah, no, that's it. So we go for the questions.
Let's do it.
Could you watch it again?
One question before you do this: do you constantly mix up Tim Curry and Eddie Izzard? Because I think they're the same person.
Eddie Izzard? I don't even know who is Eddie Izzard.
You do if you Google him.
Eddie Izzard, Brady's stand-up comedian?
Yes, but he also acts. He's in a ton of stuff. I think he was in Californication a lot.
Oh, I only watched like 1 or 2 seasons of that. Maybe it was before that. No.
Oh, she came out as non-binary, but apparently she's fully, well, she always was. She identifies as trans.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Okay, would I watch this movie again?
Yeah. Would you
The
watch it?
answer is yes, but this is going to be like 5-10 years down the road for me.
I would definitely watch it. Probably not tonight again, but I would definitely watch it. And probably it would be like one of these like live midnight showings.
That's a good point. If I had the chance to go to a live screening, I would go sooner.
Right. Would you recommend it?
Yes.
To whom? Because as you said it, there was like a high level of hesitation.
If someone came to me and was like, hey, I'd love to see a musical about a transsexual alien, and I'd be like, boy, do I have the movie for you.
Okay, what about if they were saying, I want to see an LGBTQA plus movie about an alien? Would you choose this? Or would you choose Under the Skin? She's asexual. She doesn't have a vagina.
I know, we witnessed her surprise when she...
Oh my God, what is my vagina? Yeah.
Taking away jokes aside, there's plenty of situations I would recommend. Like, hey, do you want to see an early example of film where homosexuality, transsexuality is just embraced and it's not a thing? Like, yeah, there's many situations I recommend this.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it to my parents, but definitely I would recommend it to a lot of people. I mentioned it, I came to terms with the idea that I honestly think that this is a better movie, that this is a movie that it was put in its place, like by time. It's like, I don't know if they intended to be like so forward looking, but it's like when you look at it by nowadays standard, it's like, this is bold, it's a bit dumb, but it's not about like these aspects, and from that perspective, if someone asked me about like, hey, can you give me like an LGBTQ example, I'll be like, look, I don't want to give you like the classic ones like Weekend or like Awesome Country or Brokeback Mountain. I'll give you Rocky Horror Picture Show and let's see what happens.
This gives me an idea for an episode. We should do an episode of like our top 10 gay films with
Do
no
you think-
criteria.
Do you think that we have like 10 movies that I could actually qualify as top 10?
Well, I mean, Brokeback Mountain's my number one, so maybe I don't have 9 others.
I think that I'll have to rewatch Brokeback Mountain, but I really like Awesome Country because
I do too. I actually really liked Weekend. Anyway, it's an idea to talk about gay movies that we like.
Okay. But the thing is that we will have to rewatch it. Maybe we should actually do like a mini cycle of these movies because I barely remember Weekend. I just remember like feeling peace about it because I felt it's like I would be like one of those characters. I feel peace about like that, about like, okay, yeah, I know how those characters are behaving, and it's that I had the feeling that I would behave like it. Could you remember Rocky Horror Picture Show?
So I had a hard time remembering it from yesterday, just in terms of how the plot fits together. So I'm going to say this is probably a film where I'll forget the storyline, but not like the larger aspects like Dr. Frank Infert, Susan Sarandon. There are specific things I'll remember, but no, the nonsensical nature of this is going to make me forget large portions of it.
I mean, I will remember it because I watched it like way too many times, so I already knew it's like after this scene, this one comes like the dinner with the teacher, with the science teacher comes next. It's like I already knew like how this was going, and when they were like just like having like a tidbit of visual information, like I know the song and I was like just singing along like the song. It's like
this is like saying, hey, will you remember Metamorphosis by Kafka? Well, sure, some of the bigger things, the fact someone's turning into a bug, but not like 500 pages.
It's not 500 pages, it's like 100. It's surprisingly short. I love that book. Honestly, it was like just mind blown. Yeah, I mean, because I was like expecting to have like a 500 page, like super metaphysical. And it's true, it's certainly metaphysical. But I felt so peace at the family in the Metamorphosis that it ended in such a high note, the story, that is like, God, I wish that there was like a second version of this and it was a bit more like Die Hard kind of thing, like super action oriented, like lot of dead people, and shootings and the likes, like a vengeance. But yeah, we're not talking about that. Is there anything artistic about it?
Ooh, this is almost like anti-art. Let's say yes, if I'm willing to admit camp is an art.
Yeah, my answer is the same. It's about more like, hey, look, this is art, is not sophisticated art.
It's if you want the least sophisticated visual experience, this is it probably.
Look, John Waters is there. We can watch Pink Flamingo if you want.
Yeah, no. Okay.
It's not the lowest, believe me. It's like John Waters has stuff
That's true.
that we haven't watched yet. Is it a timeless piece?
I would, if I had seen this in 1975, I would have said no, but this has clearly stood the test of time. Yes, it's the people have spoken. This is timeless.
Yeah, and I don't think that it's only about like the timeless, about like the people like just doing these midnight showings. I just feel like this movie is like just like making fun, as you were saying, like people from the 40s, 50s, 60s, you know, and just like the contrast with a bit more of a sexual liberated world. A sexual liberated world that by nowadays standards, I don't feel like it exists that much because there is not so much fluidity.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like I'm trying to think of current things that have explored issues and like pose. I mean, we're talking about trans issues, but we're not open about the sexuality of trans people.
Yeah, and the things that you think about Pose is that they are depicting something that happened on the 80s.
Again, being bullied and the AIDS epidemic.
True, but it's a different time.
Yeah. Yep.
So, would you turn this into a TV show?
Nope. I think this was the length it should be. I think trying to develop any of these characters would take away from their like weirdness and absurdity and
Yeah, no, I don't think that there is any way of turning this into a TV show in a successful way. I think that everything would turn weird, like weirder in not in a good sense, you know.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you think this movie could have been better?
I'm not going to touch this. I'm just going to say no. I don't even know what I would do with this film. I think changing anything for what I would consider the better would take away from what it is. So let's just let it be.
Yeah, I'm exactly on the same page there. I would actually say no, because as I was telling you, is that for me, the focus is not about like the sexual liberation or anything. And if I were to touch something of the nonsensical story, is that you may take the focus towards the sexual liberation. And I think that at that point is that I would make it worse. I would make it at least a different story, a different movie.
Agreed.
So before we score this, I don't know if you saw it, but I had actually an event invite for you about like asking if you remember the plot of Bottle Rocket.
I think so. So Luke Wilson is in a hospital and he's recovering from some sort of mental health issue. I think, did he try to commit suicide or am I mixing that up with the
It was an asylum. He actually got like 2 intents.
So it's Owen Wilson, right? Is his buddy and is helping him escape the institution. But really he's just being released, but Luke Wilson plays along and climbs out of the window with the sheets. Owen Wilson really wants to be like a criminal.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to be criminals together, but it's not working. And Luke Wilson wants to remain clean, but then...
No, supposedly he wants to be a criminal to impress like his boss, that he has like a side job. And this was like the part, I think that, I don't know if you look at the event, but it actually asks, it's like, do you think that you would remember the twist with his boss?
The twist with his boss is that he double crosses them, right?
No, the twist is like, at the beginning, we are led to think that he's making all of this up in his mind, that he's not some kind of crime mastermind or anything. And he's like just trying to impress like the owner of a laundromat. And then when we get there, is like he's truly a crime mastermind. And he has like a group of people that they actually commit like high level crime, and then they get double cross.
Nope, did not remember that.
Yeah,
Sorry,
because
the parts.
Because that twist, I remember like when we watched it, it's like you don't expect it because he always play like this kind of characters are weird, you know, and then reality doesn't like mold to what their expectations are. And it was like, nope, this is a criminal mastermind.
Yeah, I didn't remember that. I remember the Luke Wilson falling in love with the maid at the motel.
That she only speaks Spanish.
Yes. Yes.
And like how Owen Wilson takes a message from one of the bellboys, and he says like, "Oh yeah," she says, "I love you." He said, "Okay, sure," because he thinks that the part about like "I love you" is for him.
Yeah. That was a funny part.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that movie was good, but it's like the other day when I saw the alert, is that I did the exercise, and I remember like a lot about the movie. I remember like when they go to steal at that bookshop, there is a super like, why are you stealing in this like a stupid bookshop? What is in here? You know? Yeah, that part is like just a bit sad about like the guys that they're stealing. It's like, what kind of money are you getting from this? And they're like driving away like, woo, we made it. It's a bit like Rushmore. I think that he used to actually like to just post like the idea of this fantasy of, hey, this world makes no sense, with the reality of the world, looking at people that they live on this fantasy. That is what I used to, yeah. I mean, I was Rushmore the other day while I was sick again, and I felt like, oh yeah, this is like Potter Rock. It's still not the Royal Tenenbaums.
I think Rushmore for me is peak Wes Anderson.
Oh.
Through the one you just mentioned, this Boy Scouts.
Oh, Moonrise Kingdom. I love Moonrise Kingdom.
That I like those movies.
Yeah. No. So, would you say that you remember most of it, most of Water Rocket?
I would give myself like a D. I mean, I definitely wouldn't get an A.
Oh, yeah. I know. I definitely know that you will give yourself a D.
Or someone else's.
All right. Someone else's D's. Okay. So should we score Rocky Horror Picture Show?
Yes.
Okay. So this was my pick, so you have to score first.
I really don't know how to score this because I honestly didn't. When you asked me did I like it, I wouldn't say like I liked this movie. I respect this movie. I do think it's important, especially after our conversation, but it's not like a great film. So I would give this like a 6.5.
6.5? Okay. My score is actually a 7.5. Not too much of a difference, but it's like I really respect what it does for being bold and just like, how do you say it? Like standing the test of time.
Yes.
And just being something, I respect a lot of movies that I know that they couldn't be remade, but nowadays standards is that there is not a place here for a movie like this.
And also, this film does not. I mean, it's not 50 yet. It's 47, right? It's 47. This does not feel like a 5 decades old film. It really doesn't.
No, it doesn't. And I think that it's going to be like remaining like that. It's true that some of the stuff makes no sense, but people don't watch it for that. I think that they watch it about like how silly, campy, catchy it is.
Agreed.
So, I mean, so what are we watching next?
We're gonna pivot hard and watch a war film from 2009 called Lebanon.
All right. Yeah, you mentioned like a bit of it. I'm really looking forward to watch this. It's going to be like certainly a departure. Are there like transsexuals?
Nope, just scared young men being forced to fight a war they don't believe in, if that sounds reflective of the real world.
maybe too close, but yeah. Well, man, anything else to say about Rocky Horror Picture Show?
No, just thanks for making me step outside my comfort zone.
Cool, yeah, I'm glad to hear that you respect it. Not like it, respect it. And anything to say to the 4 people that they listen to us?
Wash your hands, I don't know, COVID's rising, whatever.
Stay safe if you can. Bye.